The Berserk manga is finally coming back. I've been waiting for this moment longer than I waited to get my first kiss. As a matter of fact, this is a bigger moment for me than the time I got to be line leader in the first grade. So, with analogies like that, you gotta know I'm pretty freaking stoked about the return of this manga. So I caught wind of this news yesterday, actually, and it was much like sniffing my own fart. It came with a lot of self-satisfaction, knowing that my hope wasn't misplaced and that my wishes were actually coming true, that this story would actually be continued. And funnily enough, I made a video not too long ago talking about all the manga that I'd read recently, and in that video, I was simping for Berserk a lot, man. Like, I was simping harder than an average Amaranth viewer, if that tells you anything. I'm just absolutely in love with this story, and the news that it was coming back was pure boner fuel for me. So let's actually get into the post that tells us the story's coming back. They posted a 2-hour readers on this website here called Hakusensha, but it's in Japanese obviously, but they do have translated versions on here for different languages. But I'm going to be reading it from this Twitter post that I originally saw that gave me all this information. So this Twitter post is actually 2 big pages, and I'm not going to be reading this. This is an English class, and the teacher didn't ask me to read. So I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes, a much more digestible version, because people these days don't have too long of attention spans, me, myself included. So let's go ahead and go through the most important parts of this letter here. And the first line is pretty daggone important. We will resume the serialization of Berserk. Now I can see every Berserk fan around the globe just unanimously slinging their arms around like a wacky flailing inflatable arm tube man. Just absolutely going bonkers, stripping their clothes off and running down the street naked. That's how happy everybody is right now. Like that meme of everybody in the bar and then the DVD logo finally hits the corner. That's how happy every Berserk fan is right now. Because the last update of the manga was chapter 364, and that came out back in, September 20th or 21st of 2021. So it's been mighty long, almost coming up on a year, and we haven't had any news, any updates. And this right here is a pretty daggone awesome update. I feel like a kid who just got to pick out his favorite toy at Walmart. I'm absolutely on cloud 9 because Berserk is such an awesome story to me. I feel like a 50-year-old woman watching a soap opera every time I read a chapter. It just hits me in every emotional string possible. It's a magnificent story. But to get back to this letter here, the part that stuck out the most to me was this line right here. Upon resuming the series, our production team decided on a basic policy. Mr. Miura said so. And that right there is just so wholesome. That's just such an awesome sentiment. And the first time I read this through, I had a grin on my face. I probably looked like the Joker. I think my cheeks did rip a little bit, because each line just got even more and more sweet. It's just so great to see a company that's not in it only purely for the money and for every sale they can possibly get, just to continue the story and pump it out because they know Berserk fans will buy it. They're sticking purely to what Kentaro Miura wanted, which was the series creator. And that's just such a great thing to see, that they're not consumed by anything except his vision. And I just realized I made a bit of a whoopsie, like a teenage white girl driving up on the curb with her car. I didn't actually say when the manga was going to resume. I skipped over that part. It's coming back June 24th of 2022. So just thought I'd throw that in there here as a little update, my bad, it won't happen again. Apology video coming soon. But to hop back into this, the next issue that comes out on June 24th, once again, the date's right there, my bad. It says they will first publish 6 chapters until the end of the Fantasia arc / Elf Island chapter. After this, they will start a new arc. And then obviously they're going to change the credits to original work by Kentaro Miura, manga by Studio Gaga, supervised by Koji Mori, which on the next page we're going to get more into that guy, because if you don't know, that's Kentaro Miura's closest friend. It's the guy he told everything, every detail, even how he wanted the story of Berserk to end, he told to Koji Mori, which is why they're getting him to supervise it, which makes this even more sweet and wholesome, that they have what is basically Kentaro Miura's best friend heading the operation to finish out the story for him. And then they end this off by saying how truly grateful they are for everybody. And honestly, this letter here, it's beautiful. It's a great thing to read. If you are a fan of Berserk, I would recommend reading it, because it's such a nice thing. It really is. And it was obviously signed by Young Animal Editing Department, which is the manga company that publishes Berserk. And then this next one here is honestly more sweet in my eyes. It's more wholesome. It's written by Koji Mori, the guy who I said was Kentaro Miura's best friend. So Koji starts this letter off by saying nearly 30 years ago, Miura called him and said he needed to talk to him about a rough draft, and he went to his workplace and Miura looked a bit more serious than usual, and he said, "I need to draw the eclipse." And he sensed it could be hard work, but couldn't believe it when he was trapped indoors for a week. In that very moment, the storyline for Berserk was completed until the very last chapter. So 30 years ago, Miura already knew how he wanted the story to end and told Koji right here and had Koji help him. And one of my favorite lines that Koji says here in this statement is, "I think people with good intuition would realize by now that I know the story for Berserk up to the very end. Still, I cannot say that I can draw it because I know it. That is because only the genius Kentaro Miura can write a masterpiece like Berserk." And that is a very true statement. The way that the Berserk has just evolved over the 30, 20 years that it's been out. When did it come out? The 90s? So it's like almost, 30 years. Over 30 years. Dang, that's crazy, man. That's absolutely bonkers. And then he follows that up by saying a great responsibility has fallen upon him. And that's very true, you know. He's like Atlas out here, carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. All eyes are on him because he's just took the reins of one of the most popular and beloved manga series of all time. And if he messes up even one pen stroke, you can bet your left testicle that those Twitter goblins are going to come for him with the full force of God. So that just goes to show how much of a man Mori really is. He's willing to go against all the criticism from the anime community, one of the most toxic communities on the globe, all for the sake of finishing his best friend's story. That's poetic right there. And this next line here is an absolute tearjerker, man. Get the tissues ready. It's a quote that Koji says Miura told him. He says, "I haven't told anyone other than you, Mori, about the story in its entirety." And that was the truth. It was too big a responsibility. And that right there is just so... It's such a wholesome thing, you know? It's like he only trusted this one guy, one of his closest friends, to, like, continue the story, to know the story even. That's just so crazy to think about. And then Koji goes on after that to just talk about how he struggled. He tossed back and forth, probably stayed awake many sleepless nights thinking about what the best course of action would be. If he should just, like, go out and tell the public what the story, what the ending of it was supposed to be, how it was supposed to continue. If he should publish an article and put illustrations in it of what Kentaro wanted. But then he finally, I guess, settled on continuing the story in manga form and doing it to the best of his ability with all the other, like, pupils that Kentaro had in the studio around him to have fully help him try to bring Kentaro's vision as best as they could to an end. And from this line right here, Miura's pupils and, like, the studio and everyone that was helping him with the manga seemed to only want to continue the story if Koji would continue it, because, like I said, he's the only one that knew how the story was supposed to continue. So they said, if you do it, the company will give you our full support. And then he thought if he ran away now, Miura would say, "I talked to you about it so much, but you didn't do it? All right, I'll do it properly." And that right there just brings chills on the back of my neck, goose pimples on my arms, and a great smile to my face. And in this final paragraph here, he says that he promises to everyone that he will recall as much details as possible and tell the story. But if he can't remember stuff, he's not going to write about it. He's not going to go off the beaten path. He's only going to write about what he can actually remember Miura saying to him about what he wanted for the story. And that right there just even adds to, like, the friendship these two had, the unbroken bond that and the respect that Koji has for Miura. That's just something that you don't really see too much now. And then he signed it, Koji Mori, June 2022. And that comes to an end of what is a very beautiful 2 letters written by the studio that publishes Berserk, as well as Kentaro Miura, the author of Berserk's closest, most trusted friend, Koji Mori. And obviously, with news like this, Twitter absolutely lit on fire. Like another gender reveal just happened in California. There's 85,000 likes on this post right here of the translation, and many more likes on the other translations. And people are just rightfully very ecstatic. I'm honestly just shocked that the company has so much respect for the original author, because most times when something like this happens, you don't really see like the absolute like the care that they're taking moving forward with the story. It's just so great to see. Such a wholesome story. I know this isn't the typical kind of thing I do on this channel, but I love this manga so much that I had to make this video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to talk about this update, this massive update, might I add. So, June 24th, be there or be square like SpongeBob SquarePants. And I'll catch you next time. Peace out. And I wanted to add that I thought it would have been best if they would have just ended it when Miura passed, because, you know, obviously without his guidance, without him being there to make it, it wouldn't really be Berserk. But after reading all that and seeing the absolute care that the studio and his best friend, his closest friend Koji is taking to make sure that it's as close as possible to what Miura would have wanted it to be, I think it's in good hands, and I think it's going to be a great thing to see it continued, and hopefully we actually get the ending that Miura would be proud of. The Berserk manga is finally coming back, and I have a cat in my lap who is moving my microphone back and forth. You wanna chill out there, homie?